So I always try to pull in the narrative in Battletech. Yes, we've got the rules, we've got the meta, we've got the tools, we've got the tactics, but ultimately as justification to purchase even more miniatures, I like to have a story. I like to have this idea of organically building out my collection. And creating and linking these memories to your miniatures is a lot of fun, because over time you look at certain machines. I've been playing the Valkyrie a lot recently. When I pull out my Mech, I look at it and I can literally see certain battles, and I can see certain awesome moments on the tabletop. And I've always, and I want to continue encouraging you, not just in Battletech, but X-Wing miniatures, Warhammer 40K, historicals, all the great games that I enjoy, that you enjoy, board games too. Let's push that out there. So in drawing this in one of my mercenary companies, the backstory, the mech commander of this mercenary company, he was gambling. He won a lot of money. He won kind of this claim on a planet to part of a ruined city, just a totally destroyed city. I need, basically, if I back up a little bit, sorry, I needed a reason to justify purchasing 5 or 6 Ost class mechs. I wanted to run all the Ost mechs from Ostal Industries and later Kong Industries. So I bought all these mechs, and I'm like, I need a backstory. Why would you field all these mechs, right? It's a narrative. I don't even know the Tactica. I didn't even know really what the mechs had at the time, but I wanted to field like an all-pod type mech. And we threw the Irby in there too, just because honor dictated it. And while it's not necessarily an Ost class mech, I mean, it looks like a battle pod. So we threw Irby in there also. And the narrative was that this mech commander, he won access to this ruined part of the city, this real estate. And in going there and redeveloping it, he found a Kong Industries showroom of stripped down mechs. So they were the mechs there in this showroom, kind of this buried mech hangar, this mech garage, rubble and ruins all over it. The weapons were stripped off. So with a little bit more of the winnings, he started his mercenary company, and that's the narrative why I field these mechs and continue to do it. So I push that in because we're going to touch into the narrative. I share that background story. We're going to share the narrative. I bring you the chassis of a 75-ton mech. 75-ton mechs. So I say 75 tons because that gives us a little bit that gives us enough of a chassis that we can mount some fun toys on and do some interesting stuff. But it's just not an auto easy, like, hey, here's 100 tons. You just mount everything. And likewise, if it was like 50 tons, 40 tons, then we don't get to play with a lot of cool toys. So I like to pick 75 tons for mech creation because you've got enough to play enough cool toys, but yet you still have to make certain design decisions rather than just, look, I'm going to take like multiples of everything. So you got 75 tons. For something unique. Now, we're not going to go balanced where it's like energy and LRMs. And no, we're going to try and create something interesting here in the comments, something unique on the table. If you were going to 3D print a mech, and maybe some of you even have this design out there. So you have 75 tons. I've given you a line of, 5, 6, 7 million C-bills to make this unique command mech for our mercenary company. What kind of mech would you make for the lulz? What kind of mech would you make that if it's on the table and someone sees it, they're like, wow, that's pretty crazy. I guess the best analogy I can think of is if you're new to Battletech, the first time you encounter a short-range missile carrier or an Antaros heavy battle tank, your opponent has the mech sheets. It's like, hey, do you want to see my forces ahead of time? I mean, that's fair to know what your opponent has. It's good sportsmanship, unless it's like a hidden mission or something custom or unique. But the first time you look at these tech manuals, and you're like, how many short-range missiles does this thing have? Like, it's got to be a typo or a misprint. No, it has that many. So you see that minute for the first time on the table when something appears, that SRM carrier rolls out. And I always roll with like 2 to 4 of them. It's got your attention. You notice it. We're going to roll some dice. We're going to have some fun. So what kind of mech would you create with that? I don't want to say unlimited money, but essentially for this exercise, unlimited money. The only limit is 75 tons. Would you make something that is just tons and tons of medium lasers with, enough heat sinks to fire potentially 80% without pushing the heat? and give it a really, really fast engine. I was playing around with essentially, I've been playing the Valkyrie a lot. I've been playing the Javelin a lot. And I really like these two mechs. And they've kind of been, it's like iron and silk, fire and ice, two completely different mechs that I've been working in tandem to cover each other for a lower battle value, because one's essentially the Javelin short-range missile punch and the Valk long-range missile punch, but they're pretty fast. They work well together. That lets me be a little bit more aggressive with both mechs working as a team. So if I try to outflank and get into your deployment zone, get into good position, you're going to see that, try to stop it. Well, I've got the long-range missiles of the Valk to lay down a little bit of something on the way. Likewise, if the Valkyrie moves in to a good firing position and you send out some stuff to get close, I've got the dual punch of the SRM-6s on the Javelin. I mean, we're getting a little off topic, but I was looking at the Javelin. I pulled that in. This is what inspired me to ask this question. Looking at the Javelin, I said, like, what if we made like a super Javelin? What if we took 75 tons, okay armor. I'll skimp a little bit on the armor because we're just trying to pack the biggest bang for the buck. And we'll give it a decent enough size engine to move it. And then how many short-range missile packs can I just fit in this thing and just spam out multiples on there? I mean, I'll put them in the center torso, put them in the left torso, right torso. We'll just feed it. I have to leave the arms. I know you have some mechs like the Trebuchet that have missiles, or the Dervish that have missiles. Is it the Ostwar? Yeah, Ostwar's got paddle hands. I mean, there are some missiles in there, but where I'm looking to place those SRM-6s is primarily torso, because I want to leave those hands free. Much like the Javelin, this idea, the Javelin wants to get close so it could punch, missile in its torsos, left and right torso, and utilize that. Could we do that at 75 tons? What could we make that would be interesting on the table? Now, I'm not much of a mech head. I mean, I do play some of the variants. I've got my favorite mechs. I've designed more tanks than I have mechs, because I'm also a tread head and pulling in some miniatures from other miniature lines that I really loved the look of the tank. I need to come up with the stats for Battletech. But I'm going to turn it over to you guys. The Mech Lab, the mech heads. I'm giving you a line of credit, giving you 75 tons. What can you come up with that would be doesn't have to be balanced? It's going to be crazy. What kind of crazy designs could you come up with to put down on the table in Battletech?